made this dungeon theme inspired by Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga, and I want to show you how I made it. We will look at the song idea, the instruments I used, and what the instruments play. And finally, we will listen to the full song. My name is Jens Vide, and I make video game music. Let's listen to the song a little bit so you get an idea of how it sounds like. And this song was inspired by 5 years before from Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga 2. Which has a pretty unsettling feeling. I had an idea for this song like you were climbing up from the underground, like you're underground, feeling sort of locked in, trapped, and you're climbing towards freedom. That's the idea I had for my song. So let's look at the instruments I used. So first off, there is this pulsing synth bass. That goes a little bit harder in the other sections. The electronic songs in Digital Devil Saga often have this sort of pulsing synth bass. You hear that like... And synth bass just means that the bass is played by a synth and not a real bass guitar or a contrabass. So then there's the electronic drums. There's a few layers here, but mainly it's a kick drum. This percussion loop. Which sounds kind of gritty and strange. And this little percussion layer. And sometimes there's like a crash. The electronic songs in Digital Devil Saga also tend to use electronic drums. And electronic drums means that the drums are made by a synth or a drum machine, and they are not drums from a real drum set. The song also has a deep synth pad that gives a ambience to the song. Yep, it sounds like that, and it just keeps going. This was also inspired by 5 years before. Having that deep synth pad at the start. I also have some organ in my song. I thought it sounded kind of churchy. Kind of interesting though that the first organ is actually a synth. But then an organ comes in, which is an organ sampled from a real organ. Church organ. Continuing on the churchy or medieval theme, I have this cembalo, which is just a nice little counter melody to the organ. Kind of reminds me of Tales of the Tales of series, like Tales of the Abyss. What other instruments do I have? Oh, right, I have this sound effect, which sounds like an electric guitar in the song. But it's actually just noise. Doesn't it sound like an electric guitar right here? Maybe because there is a synth bass underneath that plays some notes, but it makes this noise feel like an electric guitar. And I think that's kind of interesting. There's also this noise loop. This is from Distorted Reality, by the way, a pretty famous sample CD. And this drum loop was from also Distorted Reality. And what do you know? This was also from Distorted Reality. What a good and iconic sample library. And the bass is also from Distorted Reality. Can you believe it? Alright, I have some electric guitar in my song, and to be fair, electric guitar pretty uncommon in Digital Devil Saga's electronic songs. I just had a feeling. I thought it would fit nice. And this guitar is very distorted, meaning that the guitar amplifier, the thing that makes the guitar sound, has the distortion setting turned up a lot, making the guitar feel nice and strong. There is this string melody later. This is Roland SRX strings, I'm pretty sure. It is in fact expanded too. What a good sample library it is. So, those were all the instruments in my song. Let's look at what they play now, the composition of the song. And let's start with this pulsing synth bass again. So, do you remember that the synth bass plays a fast pattern, moving between different notes instead of staying on just a few long notes? So it plays many notes, right? It doesn't just stay on a few long notes, etc. The electronic songs in Digital Devil Saga often have this kind of pulsing synth bass that moves around a lot. 5 years before, from Digital Devil Saga 2 has this. Gives the song a sort of hectic feel. I really like it. And it just sounds cool as well. My guitar melody was actually inspired by Sweet Home from Digital Devil Saga 1, or should I say it's very similar. I thought it had a really nice tension when you play that guitar melody that moves, sort of climbs up, but the background chords don't change. It feels nice and tense, and like I just said, Sweet Home from Digital Devil Saga 1 does this too. And those were the instruments I used in my song, the song idea behind the song, and what the instruments play. So let's listen to the full song now. Here is Underground Fuzz from Goddess Digital.